Hello and welcome to the Stack Magazine's podcast. My name is Stephen Watson and I run Stack, the magazine club that delivers a different independent publication to your door every month. All the magazines that we work with on Stack are niche in their own particular ways, and I think that's one of the things that differentiates an independent magazine from something in the mainstream. But there are some magazines that push further into their niches than others, and I think Carrier fits that description. It's published in Amsterdam and it's a magazine about cargo bikes and the people who ride them. So we're talking about the bikes with like big chunky frames and often a big box on the front or the back. And all of them are designed to be sturdy workhorses rather than flashy, sexy status symbols. And Carrier really leans into that identity, showing that actually these bikes are often the tools that people use to engineer social change rather than just a way of getting themselves from one place to another. Tom, first of all, thank you very much for making time to talk with me. How did
Thank
you end
you.
up making this super specific magazine about cargo bikes?
It's a good question. Yeah. So I've been involved for a number of years with the International Cargo Bike Festival. That's an event here in the Netherlands, which basically brings together a whole bunch of people from across the whole world um, who who are interested in some way in the cargo bike. So you've got lots of manufacturers who come along, and we have an expo, and it's a kind of there's a whole trade show side to it. But we have all sorts of other types of people whose work or life kind of it involves the cargo bike in some way. So you have people designing cargo bikes, you have people who maybe want to invest in them or something like that, or but also civil servants, politicians from mainly local and regional level who come along and want to talk about how to kind of put cities together and design things like bike paths, that kind of thing. And it's really a big melting pot. It happens every year. We've had it for the last couple of years in Utrecht, and yeah, it's really a place where over 2 days this group comes together and uh, and and does lots of talking, basically connecting.
There's a line early on in the magazine that it says like it's the human stories behind the cargo bike, and that seems important. That actually, there aren't any like I don't know product reviews. There's no kind of like ratings of like you should buy this bike. Actually, like this is much more interested in the people who are using the bikes and what they're using them for.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really um, the yeah. I'm much more interested in those stories, the stories behind like why why do people use this machine? How could people, it's kind of to inspire others to say, okay, I've, you know, that I need to do this or that with my work, and it's a way of showing people, you don't. There are certain things that you don't need a van for, or a car or another kind of vehicle, and which you could use a cargo bike for. They are an extremely, surprisingly versatile vehicle, and it's a way of showing people, okay, there are all these different use cases, and people doing all sorts of crazy things. So it's really about telling all of those stories, really.
Yeah, yeah. And these crazy things that people are doing, they tend to uh they tend to lean towards, I guess, this sort of transformational approach to the world. Like there's something in there. So like at the start of the magazine, you have a section called Community and Resilience, which is stories of people who are using cargo bikes to try to make some kind of positive change. And so there's like people serving meals to what they call unhoused neighbors in Austin. You've got the people using cargo bikes in like the response to the flash floods in Valencia.
Yeah.
But then actually, like, that's, I sort of like saw that section because it's at the beginning. I was like, okay, this is where they're putting all the stories about people who are using cargo bikes to like make a positive social change. But then you keep onto the magazine, it just keeps on coming up. Like what's the crazy one in Chile? Bici
Yeah,
Minga.
Busiminga, yeah. So that's a really fun one actually. It's basically a group of friends who got together in Santiago, and they 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 volunteer to help people, strangers, move house. So it's basically a gang of people who, and anyone can join them. They have a bunch of cargo bikes, and anyone can fill in this online form and say, okay, I'm moving house. I think you have to be within a certain area in Santiago, and you can't be moving 30 kilometers. But uh, basically, they get together, and over the course of a day, they just they just move everything. They move fridges, they move plants, they move tables, beds, all that sort of thing. And the super interesting thing about that the name Minga, so from BC Minga, BC bicycle, obviously, and Minga is a kind of a Chilean tradition in which communities all get together and do work which would be too much for any individual or any individual family to do on their own. And there's this island on the coast there in Chile called Chiloé, I think it's called, and they have these wooden houses there, and and every so often one of these houses needs to be moved from one place to the other. So they if they do that, the whole community comes together. They hold a minga, they put logs under the house, and they pull it along with cows and horses from A to B, and at the end of the day, at the end of the minga, they just have the people who have been helped. The understanding is that they hold a big party and provide everyone with food and drink and have a great time. So that's what they also do with the in Santiago. So they end it usually with a pizza and beer or a barbecue.
Such a lovely story, and I mean, like, the photography is amazing because you've got pictures of someone riding down a road with like a bed, literally a double bed on a bike. I feel like that just wouldn't really happen in London. We wouldn't quite manage that somehow. But like, what do you think? What is it about cargo bikes that lend themselves so well to this kind of altruistic, progressive, like, sort of way of doing things differently?
Yeah, good question. I think it's to do with how um, manageable it all is. So, um, you know, y- not everybody has access to a big truck, but a lot of people have access to or you know, to buy a cargo bike would be much more within the reach of certain of most people, although most people don't have one, of course. Um, so, and I think a lot of the people who have a cargo bike, and certainly in countries like Chile or Austin, Texas, for example, where I come from the UK, and it's a very sort of car-centric uh, mentality there, and it is in most countries in the world. Um, to be to be the person who decides, okay, I'm going to do this thing that I'm going to do, and I'm going to choose to do it on a cargo bike, you're already thinking a little bit differently. So I think that's uh, that's I guess what where they're coming from.
Yeah, yeah. And then I guess there are also the things that kind of, I mean, obviously your emissions are going to be much lower if you're
Yeah.
riding a cargo bike rather than driving a van, for example.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely, yeah. And then certainly on the uh, when when people for example, want to use a cargo bike for a business, um, a lot of the time it begins as a sort of altruistic, perhaps a sort of lefty or environmentalist uh, kind of perspective. But I think what people are realizing is is that it can actually be a much quicker way of moving things around, certainly in large cities where there are traffic jams and you know uh, and certainly with the in the cities where there's more cycling infrastructure, then it can be much quicker to get something from A to B. So it's not just the environmental uh, angle that they're coming from, or the public health angle, trying to make it nicer to breathe the air in the city, but it can also be from a sort of economical angle as well, that it's actually a more effective way. There have to be certain tweaks to a business model. You can't have a huge warehouse 30 kilometers away from a city and then work with cargo bikes. No, you have to have a base much closer into the city, or several bases, micro hubs. Um, but there are ways of doing things in which the cargo bike can be just super effective.
And so, I mean, I think it's quite telling that, you were saying that you've been involved with the International Cargo Bike Festival for a long time, which is a thing that brings people together from all around the world, because this magazine seems an important part of the magazine, that it is so international. So, like, looking at the cover here, you've got like Mongolia, Norway, the Philippines, Valencia we've talked about, Chile we've talked about. Is this just a function of the people who you've met at the festival, or is this you going out and deliberately saying, right, I want to make a really international magazine?
It's a bit of both. It's a bit of both. So there's the aspect of meeting people at the festival, or the people who come and visit, or who come and speak. Um, the International Cargo Bike Festival attracts these people who are often kind of the trailblazers in their city or their country, and they come and they share ideas with each other. So I meet them there, but I also um, I I run the social media accounts for the International Cargo Bike Festival, and on in the course of doing that, I come across all sorts of stuff, all sorts of people. So for example, the story in Chile, I came across them um, a couple of years ago. I can't remember exactly how it happened. They may have messaged me, or I may have messaged them, but contact was made, and a great story came out of it a couple of years later. Um, so it's a bit of both, and there's those kind of two um, aspects of it: meeting people in real life, and also sort of online. Uh, in the course of the work to do with the International Cargo Bike Festival, but of course, when you know that you're making a magazine about you, you you start looking as well. So I've there's also another aspect of um, actually looking out for these stories, and even people coming to you, of course.
No, of course, yeah. So I guess on the editorial side, it's very international.
Yeah.
But then what about like where the magazine's sold? Like it is are you also selling to an international readership?
Yeah, yeah. So it's actually quite an interesting um, way that it came about, because I mean we're right now we are selling. I mean, we sell on our web shop, but we also sell into various stockists, and um, we really have two different types of stockists, which is I guess another fairly unique thing in this in this world of independent magazines, because we you know we sell into the independent magazine shops, um, and we have a handful of those who are stockists, but we also have this other um, sort of outlet, which is the cargo bike specialist shop, or bike shop. So there are several of those who are also just really interested in, um, like me, in promoting the idea of the cargo bike as as a as something which should be promoted, and more people should use. And so they're also interested in selling it as well. It's another thing for them to put on their counter or on their shelf, and alongside the cargo bikes and accessories that they sell.
Do you have like a rough idea of the split in terms of like how many you sell in the specialist places compared to like the magazine shops?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it would be probably about 50-50. I would have thought. Yeah, I think. Yeah,
Because I
yeah,
guess that like when you're selling in a magazine shop, you've got a bunch of people in there who are like going in with the intention of I'm looking for magazines, but then you're competing with like how many other magazines on the shelf. Whereas you go into the cargo bike shop, probably no one's thinking I'm going to buy a magazine when they walk in there, but then you're the only one. So if you can catch their attention, then there's a decent chance you'll sell it to them.
yeah. Exactly. And there's challenges with both because, of course, the visitors to the cargo bike shop, as you say, isn't looking for a magazine, and and you have to sort of um, you know uh, convince them that they would would want to buy a magazine, which they weren't intending to do, which could be a nice surprise for them, I guess. And in the independent magazine um, stores, of course, a lot of them are very small, and they're they're not like huge businesses either. And there's a lot of niche magazines out there, but like you say, ours is pretty out there in the terms of the niche. I mean, we're a cycling magazine, but like cargo bikes is a sort of niche within that niche, as it were. So
Totally. This is it. Well, and all, I mean, like I'd say like niche within a niche within a niche because you like, so you're right.
yeah,
You've got like bicycles, then you go down into like cargo bikes, but then also like the way that you approach the subject, like, I mean, you're not afraid to get pretty geeky with some of this stuff. Like there's a story in there about, the laws of riding your bike on the road in the Netherlands, and if
yeah,
your bike
yeah,
is over a certain width, then you don't have to go on the cycle path, you can go on the road. So, I mean, like, nobody's reading that if if they're not like really quite engaged with
yeah,
the idea of like riding a cargo bike.
yeah, and that really comes from the side of our work that comes from the advocacy idea, as I guess, because we're quite involved in um, in 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 not only promoting um, cargo bikes, but I guess cycling in general. So we're kind of quite plugged into all of those networks, the cycling advocates, but also the kind of world of urbanism and 15-minute city, all of those kinds of people as well. So yeah, indeed, we do try and get a bit nerdy sometimes, and it's yeah, that's that's just how it gets sometimes. Yeah.
I'm interested to know then, like, so what was it that made you think you need to make a magazine about this? Because I can totally see that you're there, you've got the festival, you've got this fantastic network of people, you can see, like, kind of cycling evolving, and like, you see an opportunity there. But then, like, what is it about print that made you think, okay, now we need to make a magazine?
Yeah, it's an interesting story actually, because well, the magazine actually uh, has a bit of a history, and which predates my involvement in the Cargo Bike Festival. So the first Cargo Bike Festival was 2012 in Nijmegen, which is on the Dutch city on the border of Germany with Germany, and that started very small. That started by my colleague Jos, who actually wrote the nerdy article we were just talking about. He was he is the founder, and we work together now, the two of us. And in 2016, so 4 years later, he start we we started this thing called the ICBF magazine, so the International Cargo Bike Festival magazine, which was published at for the festival. So it was something that people could read. It was an A4 kind of. It looked a bit like a brochure, I guess, and and there were some interesting stories, fairly thin, um, and and I Uh, and I'm told actually that that first edition of the ICBF magazine was actually produced over the 3 days of the festival. So there was a team. I don't know how big the team was. Hopefully it was about 10, but they produced the magazine, and then they printed it on the third day so that people could read it. Um, and then that carried on. The ICBF magazine came out every year, and it always came out at the festival itself, so supported by advertising from the exhibitors themselves mainly, and I kind of got involved and ended up editing the ICBF magazine, and I think the last one of those came out in 2022. So there were about eight or so issues of this thing, the ICBF magazine. And then I met my colleague. I met some the guy who's doing the art direction for Carrier, and his name is Cyril Sherman. He's a kind of creative in the not just in the cycling space. He's an art director, creative director, and he also introduced me to the designer of Carrier, Aaron Griffiths, who's another Brit who also lives in Amsterdam, and they came to me and said, "Look, this ICBF magazine, it's got a lot of potential, but I think that but we think it needs to be elevated." And they came to me with some ideas for how we could do that, and we a bit of toing and froing, and we said, okay, let's do this. So we gave it a new name, and the design was just completely revamped, and 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 on top of that, we really went into the editorial side as well, and elevated that as well alongside it, and partly because because when you know that something's going to look absolutely fantastic design wise, then that also helps you to up your game as well. So yeah, these were all free. They were always given away at the International Cargo Bike Festival, and that was also true of Carrier Issue 1. That was given out free at the festival at the in November 23. And then after that, we decided that what we would do would be to sort of decouple it a little bit from the festival, so that the magazine could kind of do its own thing a bit, kind of so that it didn't have to be brought out at the festival, and could be developed sort of in its own right a bit, which is I mean, just on a personal level, publishing a magazine and organizing a huge event at the same time, uh, it's not great for the blood pressure.
I can imagine. But then that presumably also changes what the magazine is, because when you're making a free thing which is reflecting an event that people are already at, that's like you have one set of choices to make to do that. But now this thing seems to be reaching out much more to like kind of new audiences. So like people who are not at the festival, people who may not come across this otherwise.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And uh, that's reflected if in it, it's reflected also in the name as well, because what is the ICBF magazine? What is that? If you don't know what the ICBF is, so Carrier is a much more, there's some people call cargo bikes Carrier cycles, so that's a bit more of an inclusive term, because a bike, technically that is a something with two wheels, but there are lots of them riding around with three wheels or four. So in English, it's a bit of an interesting term. In Dutch, for example, the word fiets, it could be anything that's pedaled. So that's a little bit easier. Yeah. So it's a much more I mean, I think in terms of like what you were saying about it being about the event, it was already the ICBF magazine was already um, more about what was going on in the world, and it just happened to be brought out at the festival. But we just took it a little bit further in that direction, I would say, when it became
Mm-mm.
Carrier.
And so this is the first one you've done. So, like, what was the experience like? How did this thing turn out compared to what you were hoping for?
Well, I have to say when I each time when I've had a carrier in my hand for the first time, I've just you know, and bear in mind that it's not just me who makes this thing. It's a whole team. There are there's people proofreading and copy editing as well. uh, every time I've had it in my hand for the first time, I've just felt so proud, and felt like it's, you know, I for me, carrier issue two, apart from my children, it's the best thing I've brought into the world. Uh, no, no doubt. So I just felt very proud. But like in terms of like um, this carrier issue two is there's been such a learning curve for me personally because of the fact that simply that we're selling it. Um, so again, because you're selling it, there's that kind of pressure that you put on yourself because it's like this has to be absolutely tip top, really good. Um, so there's that, but you're also kind of working behind the scenes, setting up the web shop, contacting stockists, um, setting up kind of distribution as well, which we've been doing ourselves too. Um, we've we actually have a, uh, a cargo bike courier company in Nijmegen. So this is Jos's city where the cargo bike festivals. There's a pallet of carriers kind of in their warehouse, and it's our web shop is kind of connected to them, so it kind of goes out automatically. So
Okay, so this is the first one that you've made in this way to
mhm.
sell.
Yeah.
Have you started work on issue three?
We're beginning, and I'm always gathering ideas. I you know, uh, and we're going to be meeting in the next couple of weeks actually to just sort of talk about giving shape to it. And what we're doing again this year. So despite everything I said about making it separate from the event itself, what we've decided to do this year is to once again release it at the International Cargo Bike Festival, and I guess for a practical reason that we can just have our own launch party at our own event, and that's quite a nice thing to be able to do.
Totally.
So
And launch it into a place where there are loads of cargo bike enthusiasts all there
yeah,
at the same time.
handy. Yeah.
Okay, so that's a very practical consideration of like a thing that you're going to change. Is there anything else that you've seen? So like, you see this thing come out and like, you've been looking at hundreds and hundreds of PDFs to get to this point, and it's when you see it in print, you go, oh, should have done that. Have there been any moments like that where you've decided like, okay, no, let's change this up for the next time?
I think that I haven't seen anything. Didn't have a moment where I'm like, oh, wish. Yeah, maybe there were probably lots of small things. Actually, I can't really remember any in particular. But I think what I'd like to do this time is to 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 do slightly less stories and to give each story a bit more space, so physical space on the page. Um, give We had to make a lot of difficult choices in the kind of last design phase. We had to leave some absolutely amazing photos out, and I remember at one point at the very last moment when we'd filled all of the spreads, and we were sitting there with I think 6 candidates. We had one double page spread left. We were like, okay, which of these 6 candidates is it gonna be? And there was a lot, there was a lot of toing and froing, and it was, yeah. in some ways quite a kind of luxurious problem to have. But in the end, we gave it to um, there's a spread where in the Valencia story where there's just this cargo bike kind of standing on some mud, and I think there's just a whole
I know exactly the
wall
one you mean.
wall of broken cars. Yeah, exactly. We were like, yeah, it's got to be that one. Um, just such an impactful photo, and it says so much without words. So I think what I would like to do is actually give a lot more space, room to breathe for more of those kinds of things. So
Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah, that's what
Well,
I'd like
listen,
to do.
speaking as someone who didn't know anything about cargo bikes before reading this magazine, I can tell you that you've definitely you've achieved your aim of spreading the gospel because yeah, I think that the way that you've approached it of like kind of showing people why actually this is a thing that you should care about and this is a thing that's interesting, I think it makes a lot of sense. So thank you very much for telling me all about it now.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, yeah. Thanks for the chance to tell everyone about it here.
Cheers, Tom.